Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to chapter 5 of the cross origin resource sharing course. And if you remember from the previous chapter, we covered course basics, but on the client side. And in this particular chapter, we're going to cover course basics on the server. So in the previous one, we looked at the origin header, and in this one, we're going to look at the counterpart on the backend on the server. So I've broken down this chapter into four parts as well. The first part is the course demo recap, which we're already doing a little bit. And then we'll look at the Spring Boot cross origin annotation, which is used to do the CORS configuration on the server side for the case of Spring Boot. And then we'll look at some more detail about the cross origin annotation as it can be scoped. And then we shall do a summary. So let's go to the recap. So in the previous chapter, I built a small React application, literally just created with npx and added a little fetch request on it. And then I also created a small Spring Boot application with one controller that responded to requests from the React app. So the React app created cross-origin requests to the server, and the server responded in typical CORS style. So we saw the errors that come up when we do a cross-origin request without proper setup, and we also looked at some options on how to resolve it, though not very recommended, but we saw them anyway, and we saw the side effects of those options like disabling CORS. So uh, we talked about the origin header and how the origin header is the entry point for the front end app for the browser to enforce cross origin resource sharing policies. Then we talked about how the client or the browser was expecting a certain header from the server if indeed it was set up for course compliance, and we saw how that header did not show up and caused some bit of problems, which we later resolved. Not in an ideal manner, but we looked at how to resolve them. So in this case, we're just shifting attention from front end or from the client to the server. Okay. So we want to do the most basic course configuration on the server, right? So the header on the server side is access control allow origin, which is here. And indeed, it was in the browser console when we saw this error. So just to recap practically, so this is still our same controller serving the API course endpoint, and the browser is here. Sorry, the client in the browser is here, still talking to the same endpoint, and our client is here. So if we just refresh this page, we shall see our course response here, our response to the endpoint here. And we noticed that the origin header was not added because we disabled course. And of course, our responses came out as opaque and we couldn't read anything. And hence, we couldn't display anything here where we expected to display the response from the server. So if we go back to the client and we remove the mod no course, we expect this header, the fetch mode, to change from no course back to course. So we are re-enabling course. So we want to see what happens again to remind ourselves. So here now, another request. So it's a it's a reload feature of React when you change code and save it, and then the page reloads with the changes. So here, when we open this last request, which is red now, status is still success, but we now see since course is enabled, the fetch mode is now course. We can see the origin has been placed in the request. Okay, localhost 3000 to the server. But of course, the server, as we said, has not responded with an appropriate header. So the browser defaults to its enforcement policies for CORS. And the policy states that block access to the request. Okay, block access. Sorry, not block. We block access. We make the response opaque when the when CORS is not enabled. But since it's enabled, we see the request fail with this error that we looked at. And the browser is telling us no access control allow origin header is present on the requested resource. If an opaque, blah, blah, blah. So now we're back to status zero. We're back to the beginning. Now, we want CORS to be enabled, and instead of disabling CORS and getting opaque responses, we now want to configure CORS properly on the server side. And we want to do this in the most basic form possible. We don't want to complicate anything. So if we go back to my if we go back to my table of contents here, we we did the recap, and now we want to take a look at the Spring Boot cross-origin annotation. So Spring Boot comes with an inbuilt annotation, and so the annotation helps in the simplest way to configure course compliance on the server. So we are going to look at this and then explain the behavior we see. So if we go to the server, and we add an annotation at the controller level here called cross origin. And then we add a field, we add a parameter called origins, and we put, oh, sorry, um, and we put our origin that the browser sends in the origin header. So this is where the React application is running, and we save that, and then we start the server again. Okay, it has started. So we come here. Let's clear the console. We clear the network tab, and then we refresh this page. Ooh, a lot of things have changed. So let's just go step by step. The All right. So look here. This is the response from our server. All right. The server is responding with text cause success. And all along, we wanted the text to be transformed and set in the state variable so that we can display it here. Previously, we never saw this text displayed because the value was either not coming because the request was failing, or when we disabled calls, the request was passing, but then the browser was treating the response as opaque, was not exposing the response to us. So now, the fact that we have this field populated means that the request was successful in every sense. So that is one tick for us. And then if we go to the network tab and we see, let's just take a look at this course request. So again, status 200 successful as it was before. So we go to the request headers, and the browser still sent the origin of the request. And remember, it expects another header from the server. And now when we go to the response headers, and now we can see a couple of other additional headers, but let's focus on this. I'll come back to these in another future video. Don't pay attention to these very headers for now. But remember, from the initial error, this is the field that the browser was looking for in the headers, and it didn't find it. So now it has found it, and the value is localhost 3000. So that is the same value that the server sent, right? So that means that the browser asked the server, okay, I'm sending you a request from the client from a script from this origin, localhost 3000. Send me back a response telling me if I should allow this request to proceed to the very end. And the server this time sends access control our origin, and the value is our origin that we sent. So what this means is that the server says, yes, you can allow requests from this script, and I'm prepared to handle them. So then if we go to the console, we can see our logs that we added here that are printing the response and the response text. are now working and they're actually indeed displaying the text. So here you can see response text CORS success. The response is no longer type opaque, it's now type CORS, and the rest of the fields are good. Okay, true. So we've experienced success because of properly setting up our server to handle CORS. So that is good, and this is what I wanted to demo. But then I'll say something further. If we go to, okay, let's just start from the browser here, back to the network tab. So I want to show you how to use now the cross origin annotation on Spring Boot. Uh, Basically, we simply added this on the controller, and we added our origin to an array of origins here. And our browser could now say, okay, now the server has responded with a header. And adding this annotation basically added the most basic setup for the server to respond in a course compliant manner. One of those is adding the origin header. And when we saw here, there were additional headers added in the response. Additional headers like vary origin. There's this header access control request method. Well, needless to say, CORS has other extra headers that are used to control access, and one of them is access control request method. This is used to just the way we are controlling access based on any request whatsoever based on the header for origin, based on origin. There's also a way to control access based on the HTTP method, get, put, post. So this is something we're going to look at in the future video, but I just wanted to mention it so that it doesn't cause some bit of confusion. But our focus for now is on the allow origin header, and it has worked. So just to expand on how the cross origin annotation works, uh, it is an annotation at at the request handler level. So in Spring Boot, request handlers are mainly controller classes. So we have our controller class, and we've added this annotation, and now we have success. So another way we could do this is uh, to move that annotation from class level to the method level, right? So if you add it at the method level and you restart the server, yes, it has started successfully, and you just refresh that page. We still have success. Cause success is here. Okay. So going back to our table of contents, we've already demonstrated Spring Boot cross origin annotation, and what we're talking about now is cross origin annotation scopes. So the fact that we moved the annotation from the class level to the endpoint level, we've changed the scope. All right. So now these CORS policies are only applying to the endpoint API slash CORS. So let me show you why. Let me just justify the statement. So if I create another endpoint called test no CORS. Hey, no CORS success. Let me call this test CORS just to differentiate them. So if I save this and I restart the server, and then I go back to my client. Okay, so yeah, we still have course success here. Let's clear this. We clear that. And we come back to the React application. We change this to no course, right? And we save that. It reloads. And now we have a course problem again. Okay, so why is the course success still here? Let me refresh the page because this is a cached value. It's not coming. Okay, so now the value we expected is no longer displayed. That means that the state variable is not populated. We are back to square one, and our problem and our error in the console is still there. access has been blocked by CORS policy. No access control allow origin header. But we have the header, only that we have it on a different endpoint to this one. Oh, sorry. Wait, I didn't add a get mapping. So let's just check to make sure we call the correct endpoint. So to be clear, we got a different error, a 404. That's still, we still see the cause issue, but okay, let me fix this. I'll clear that and I'll clear this. I want the 404 error to disappear. I want to get status 200 here so that we really focus on the error we're studying here. So let me add the endpoint mapping to no cores. So I'll restart the server. Okay, it has restarted. So I'm calling no cores here. So let me refresh the page. Okay, so now we are getting status 200 and the origin is still being sent, but only that this time we're back to square one. The server is not returning to us the expected header to help the browser decide how to control this access. So what does the browser do? The browser blocks the call, and in the console we can look at the error. It's still the same error that we started with. Basically, we've just scoped and the endpoint is no cause. Let's make sure of that. So basically, we scoped our cause configuration to a single endpoint. That's how flexible the cross origin annotation is. So now, if we move this annotation back to class level, let's just move it back to class level there. Good enough. The Spring server starts really fast. Okay, it has started. And now, instead of getting these errors, we shall get success. Boom. Okay, so you can see the message from the endpoint is here, no cause success. And our API call is successful. The allow header is added here. Great. So and then let's try something else. What if I move? Okay, now it's at global level. At least we can tell the difference. You can add it at class level or at method level. So one thing I could do, let me add, just see, let's remind ourselves that the header, the response header comes with the allowed origin. So if we add an extra origin, because this is an array, it takes a couple of origins. Remember, you may want to allow requests from scripts from different origins, so not only one. And I can add another origin here, localhost 3001. Let's see what it displays on the in the response allow origin header. So it has started successfully. I come here. Let me clear that. Let me clear that. I think we'll just be focusing on the network tab. So it has succeeded, but we need to succeed, but we just want to see what's returned in the. Okay, so what the server does is simply return the origin that was requested. It doesn't return the whole array. Okay, it returns only the origin that was requested. It simply checks from the array that the origin that is sent by the browser is actually allowed. And how do you allow the origins that should access the server? By giving an array of allowed origins here, like we've done. So what else can we do? Let's say we want to okay, another question someone could ask is, okay, so if I want requests from scripts from origins that could be maybe 1,000 different origins or just 100, surely typing them out one by one would not be nice, right? It wouldn't be convenient. So what do? You can use a wildcard. So we replaced our two origins with a wildcard asterisk. Okay, I save, I restart the server. Uh-huh. The server restarts, then I go back to the client, I refresh it. The request succeeds. No cause success. Even if I change this to cause, I get all success. So both of them work. And if I look at the request here, now allow origins is a star, is asterisk. Okay, it is wildcard. It's a catch-all. Any origin is allowed. This is the most. This is like having the opposite of same origin policy. You allow requests from any origin whatsoever. Of course, this is too relaxed. It can apply in some cases, but it doesn't. In security domain, you need to follow the principle of least privilege. Start with as stringent a rule as possible, like same origin policy. Then you relax it in a controlled manner while observing the side effects and planning properly what you're actually doing and what will be the impact of it. So in this case, setting it to a wild card is not the best, but I just wanted to demonstrate that capability. And now we've seen how it works. And another thing I could do is to say, so let me just show you how you can use this cross origin annotation to combine different policies. For example, at a class level, I've allowed all, right? Um, oh, sorry. So at all right, let me just leave it like that. At class level, I've allowed all. But if I go to no course policy, I can add a separate annotation. Oh, sorry, what's happening? Okay, so I I can override maybe it's an override. I can add another. Sorry, something is happening to my. Let me just type it out. Something's happening to my copy paste. So if I do this and I limit it to localhost 3001, let's see what it will say. I just want to show that we can combine these configurations and scope them at different levels from class level to endpoint level. So our course header, our course success still works. Let me clear this. If I change this to no course, where I've overridden the global setting and I check the network, okay, so I think it still works. All right, so I think what really happens is that it just combines, and perhaps the most relaxed option, it's still using the global one. Still using the global one, so that didn't work as I expected. What if I move this to here? Oh, it just deleted everything. What happened? Okay, so I move the I think I have a virus or something. I'm going to type it out. If I move the more stringent one to the class level, and I bring the more lax config to the endpoint level, and then I restart the server, what will happen? Oh, this is a good discovery as well. So now I'm calling no course, and what did I configure? I configured a wildcard access level. So let me remove this, and we okay, no cause success. All right, it still takes the global one. Okay, so definitely, I think I'll need to take a look at this again, and I'll probably prepare another video to discuss how to combine different configurations and which one takes precedence over the other. But from what we've seen here, it looks like the global one takes precedence over the lower one, or it's an XOR combination. It's not it's a combination. It's not a matter of precedence. It just combines the rules together. And I don't know. I'll have to figure that out and organize another video. But at least I hope you've seen how to use the cross origin annotation to set up the most basic access control for course policy on the server side. And now we don't need to disable CORS on the client side, and the client is able to communicate cross origin successfully because we've set up proper controls on the server. So yes, that is it. And now I will summarize this chapter. Um, so basically, we've seen how calls on the server side works, and we've also tested on the client side. It's all good. Basically, to recap, calls, we've basically just been relaxing the same origin policy in steps. We started with the front end, we came to the back end, we combined the two, and it's all working. But one thing we should take away from this is that ultimately it's the server that is in the driving seat. It controls. The browser is just a collaborator. Whatever the browser sends a request to the server with a certain question using the origin header. Hey, do you accept this origin to send request to you? And then the server responds with a certain header, allow headers. Okay, they are called allow headers. So when the server responds with a header that tells the client that wait, so this client you asked is not allowed, the browser will reject. If this client origin you sent is allowed, the browser will accept. So back to the basics, CORS works based on HTTP headers, and we've just seen how. Now, in the next chapter, I want to tackle another topic called credential requests. Uh, and I'm going to define it over there, but basically it has to do with when your request has credentials or secret information or confidential information in it. For example, authorization or session cookies. What is the course policy around those? And what is the proper setup to achieve that? So, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this session, and see you again in the next chapter as we tackle credential requests. Thank you.